Hello everybody, and thanks for tuning in to my second class on childbirth education. And today I would like to get into pain coping techniques. But first I'd like to talk a little bit about birth and how it's happening in the hospital today. So as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, there is news going around that parents are being separated before the pregnant person goes into the birth space. And this is understandably so causing a lot of anxiety. So I want to encourage everybody that's listening, if you're going to be giving birth at some point in the next few months, talk to your doctor, talk to your hospital, and find out what regulations you are facing, and then try to prepare for them as much as you possibly can. So I know that a lot of doulas are connecting to their clients with video chats. Same with parents that are separated. They're still staying connected with video calls, either on Hangouts, Google Hangouts, or FaceTime, or Zoom. We have a lot of options here today to connect with each other virtually, thank goodness. So if you think that you may be faced with something like this, first do your research to find out if it's true, and find out what would feel best for you in that situation. If maybe you want to do it alone, or maybe you want to connect with your partner, or you want to connect with a doula, or you want to connect with both a partner and a doula at the same time, and go about researching about how you can do that, which platforms you're going to use, which doulas are offering that service. I know a few of them are. If you would like my input on that and you would like me to refer you to someone that is doing that, please send me a message. I'd be happy to point you in the right direction. So enough about that. What I would like to get into are the pain coping techniques. It seems to be everyone's favorite part of the birth education, is learning how we're going to deal with pain. And let me just tell you that by teaching you these pain coping techniques, that is not me saying, oh, you won't feel any pain during childbirth, because you will. There's a lot going on in your body when you give birth. And for me to say, oh, these techniques, you won't feel any pain, I would be lying to you. And anyone that tells you that does not know that for sure. They can't tell you that you won't be feeling pain in childbirth. So we want to prepare to feel pain. So we can't exactly eliminate pain without the use of drugs. So what we want to do is eliminate the suffering that comes along with that. So before we get into the techniques, I'd like to just talk about pain and suffering. There is most likely a time you can remember when you were in pain. Maybe you broke a bone, or you had a piercing done, or you severely hurt yourself somehow, and you felt that pain. And you could really, pain is something that is easy to detect. It's something that when it happens, we know that it's happening, and we can recognize it, and we can say, oh, let's take something to make it go away. Or, we know what pain is. We've been feeling it our whole lives, right? There's also suffering, and the two are different. So whereas pain is something that we can measure, something that we can feel, something we can look at and say, oh yeah, this is when I hurt my foot, or this is when I hurt my arm, or whatever happens. Suffering, on the other hand, is it's almost something that we create on top of the pain. So if the painful moment is sort of like a dot, the suffering would almost be like the stuff around it, the stuff we surround the pain with. So with these techniques, we aren't promising that you won't feel pain, but the intention is to limit the suffering. So yeah, if you can maybe just think of a time in the past that you were suffering. I know that a lot of people might be suffering right now. Perhaps you have battled an addiction in the past and you suffered from that. Or perhaps you knew someone that passed away and that caused you suffering. There's so many different reasons why we suffer, and to name them all would be redundant, right? Because there's just so many different reasons why people suffer today. And can't possibly name them all. But if you can think back to a time where you were suffering, and I want you to think about how you knew you were suffering, and two, was there anything that helped you not suffer? Not to say that suffering is bad, but was there anything that you did in those moments to help you feel better when you were suffering? And really take a moment to think about that. If there are any things that you know work for you that helps you eliminate your suffering. And it might not just be one thing, it could be a list of things. So to sort of stimulate the suffering mind, we are going to do something called ice contractions. And this is my favorite part of teaching pain coping techniques. So what you're going to need, and go ahead and pause the video to collect your supplies, you're going to need a towel. You will need a bowl of ice cubes. And you will need a timer. Actually, you won't need a timer, because I'm going to time you. And I'm going to do this first one with you, just so that you can get an idea of what's happening. But then after that, I'm just going to be doing the timing. And I will let you guys know when the minute is up. So, here we go. What we're going to do first is just kind of test out what happens to our body and our minds when we are suffering. So, now that you have your bowl of ice, you have your towel, just it's going to be tempting to employ these techniques that we have used for however long we've been alive for to eliminate our suffering while we hold this ice. But I want you to try the best you can to not use any of your coping techniques. You're just going to hold the ice and really feel and pay attention to what's coming up in your mind when you hold the ice. So go ahead and pick up the ice in one hand. I'm going to go ahead and start a timer here. We're going to hold the ice for 1 minute. It's really cold. This is really uncomfortable. I don't like this. And go ahead and drop your ice. So we can kind of see what happens to our mind when we suffer. I know that I did not like that one bit. My hand was uncomfortable. That was cold. I never want to hold ice ever again. Just kidding. So now we're going to do this technique, but we are going to employ a pain coping technique. So this first technique that we are going to do is called breath awareness. And this technique comes pretty intuitively to people because it's something that we just tend to do. You might have even been doing it while you were holding the ice just now without even realizing it. And what we do is we connect to our breath. And we're not trying to force anything. We're not counting. We're not trying to make any part of our breath longer than the other. We're just naturally letting our breath go out and come just feeling how the breath is in our body, feeling the length of the breath, and feeling the spaces between the breath. So let's try that a few times, and I'm going to guide you through the technique. I'm not going to be holding the ice this time because I'm going to be timing and walking you through this. So go ahead and pick up your ice, and if you'd like, you can close your eyes. And bring your entire awareness to your breath. If you feel yourself trailing off and getting distracted, just come on back to the breath. Bring your awareness to the quality of your breath and the spaces in between. And go ahead and drop the ice. How did that feel? Was there a difference? Maybe not so much the first time. You might need to practice this technique multiple times to really feel the difference between holding the ice without this technique and feeling the technique. So something that I commonly hear is that people get distracted, and there's no shame in being distracted. In fact, you will get distracted while you're giving birth. While you're in labor, you're going to get distracted. It's okay. You know, there's going to be a lot of stuff going on. So instead of saying, oh man, I got distracted, or we're just going to throw the technique out, but no. You get distracted, you accept that you got distracted, and you come right back to the breath. Okay? We don't need to add more suffering to this. In fact, the getting distracted is normal, but the habit that we have, which is, oh, I got distracted, I'm so bad at this, blah, 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 that's part of the suffering, right? That's part of our suffering mind, and that's what we're trying to eliminate. So if you find yourself getting stuck in that pattern, just come right back to your breath. So for the sake of time, we're going to move on to the next pain coping technique. And like I said in the beginning, if you have any questions about these techniques that I'm doing, or you'd like a little bit more of an individualized session, feel free to message me and we can always work something out. But just for the sake of time, so that you can have a clear idea of what your techniques are, we're going to go right into the next one. So this one is called non-focused awareness. And this one is really great for people that tend to be a little bit scatterbrained, and people that maybe the breath awareness just seems a little too easy, or it's just, you just want something a little bit more to chew on. So I personally like to use this one when I'm in the grocery store, because there's just a lot going on in the grocery store and it's easy to do. So so with non-focused awareness, we are using our distractions as a way to focus ourselves. So even if you are going to be giving birth at your home, there are going to be some distractions. Maybe you have a loud barking dog. Maybe you have a screaming toddler. Maybe there's a car alarm going off on your streets. We have this idea sometimes of birth being this peaceful thing, and maybe it can be in some instances, but there's guaranteed going to be some times when you feel overwhelmed, or there's just a lot going on, no matter where you're at. And to help prepare for those moments, this technique is going to be your friend. So instead of using quiet, we are using distractions. So we are going to go through our sights, our hearing, our touching, and then right back to our breath awareness. So before we hold the ice, we are just going to go through the senses so you can kind of get an idea of what's happening here. So I'm going to go ahead and put the timer on. So first we're going to do sights. So instead of looking around at everything, we are going to have almost like a peripheral vision and just soak up everything in your sight. Becoming one with everything that's in your vision. Acknowledging it all without making judgments on anything. Now we're going to move to hearing. You can close your eyes if it makes it easier. Soaking in everything you hear equally without judgment. And touching everything that you're touching. And then go right back to breath awareness. Okay, and just like with breath awareness, we are putting our full awareness onto these certain senses. So when I say sight, we are absorbing everything that we see. It's becoming a part of us. When we say hear, we are absorbing everything that we hear, whether it be a beeping noise or a car going by or music. It's all equal, and we're not making a judgment about anything. We're just soaking it all in. When we breathe out, we're breathing into the noise. When we breathe it in, we're breathing in the noise. Touching, not to be confused with feeling, but touching. What are we touching? Our clothes on our body, our body against the floor, the bed, our hands clasped together. What are we touching? Our hair on our back. All these things, bringing our complete and total awareness to everything that we are touching. Breathing out into the touching, breathing in what we are touching. And then, of course, the breath awareness, which is bringing our total and complete awareness to our breath. So let's try that with the ice. I'm not going to try with the ice. I'm going to be timing and guiding. So go ahead and pick up your ice. And let's start with sights. Remember, have your peripheral vision and soak in your sights. And hearing, soak in everything that you're hearing. And touching, soak in everything that you're touching. And seeing everything that you're seeing. And hearing. And touching. And breath. Go ahead and drop the ice. And how would that feel? Again, these techniques take time to learn. And the first time you do it, you may be confused by them. They may not have worked. But with practice, just like with anything, with practice, you will get better at them. They will become more intuitive to you, and they will help you cope with pain and focus during your labor. The next one I'm going to teach is called ovarian breathing. And before we get into the technique, I want you to first close your eyes and bring your awareness to the very bottom of your spine, your coccyx. And on your next inhalation, bring your complete awareness all the way up your spine, almost like your breath is moving this awareness, this energy, all the way up your spine to the crown of your head. And then on your out breath, visualize this energy moving down the middle of your face, of your neck, of your chest, all the way down to your pubic bone. And then breathe in, imagining, visualizing the energy moving up the spine. On your out breath, visualizing it moving down the front part of your body. On your next exhale, as you visualize this energy moving down the front part of your body, imagine there's a cup at your navel, filling up with this energy, with this beautiful energy. When the cup has been filled, imagine that it spills over, and then it comes back up again on your next in-breath. What did you think about that one? Let's try it with the ice. So it's called ovarian breathing. It's also called circular breathing because it's quite literally going in a circle around your body. So let's try that with the ice, and I will time you. So go ahead and pick up the ice. Bring your awareness to the bottom of the coccyx and breathe in. All the way up the spine. All the way down your front. On your next out breath, imagining your cup being filled. On your next out breath, imagining the cup spilling over. Go ahead and drop the ice. How was that? How did that make you feel? The intention of these techniques, like I said, is not to eliminate the pain, but to reduce the suffering of the ice. So I hope that you all felt a difference between the very first initial time that you held the ice versus the breath awareness, the non-focused awareness, and the ovarian breathing. If you would like to go over more techniques, or you would like some more individualized sessions with me, feel free to reach out and I would be happy to help you. Alright, thanks for tuning in, and let me know if you have any questions or if you have any requests for the next class. Have a good one.